Okay, I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to let that anxiety that I feel sit in my stomach. Okay, so here the first couple of images are the finished product and my inspiration for the artwork. Um, I'm not going to say that word very often. So, what I have is I have some copper color iridescent. And when I decided to do this, I wanted to start with a dark background and then bring it up lighter and lighter, even with the gold tone. So I thought I'd start with copper and right in the background. Um, and that would darken up some of the gold as well. So here I'm just trying to create the shape of ice cream. Uh, I work with these inks though, and I really think I need to talk about that. They're a lot like watercolor, but I probably don't use them exactly like somebody else would. Um, Somebody else may pre-wet the paper or something like that, but for now, I'm kind of enjoying dry brush. And um, what we're making here is an envelope, though. Um, this particular one is not going to end up being an envelope. I gave it to my son as a painting. Uh, he really showed up for me a couple of weeks ago, and man, it made a difference. And I super appreciate that. That's been happening more and more lately, and I'm super grateful for that. One reason I do art is not because necessarily that I totally relate to the idea or ego, you know, of being an artist, but I've always done it for my own mental health. Um, there are traumas inside me that probably I don't have the words to express, uh, but I can paint them. Uh, Love has always kind of been a challenge for me to express. And it's not that I am an unloving person, it's how I express it that I feel I could do better. So, this is a love letter. Um, I did think about my son when I was picking this out. It never really looked like the picture for the inspiration I used, but I don't usually even use an image for inspiration. I normally go off of my inner image and I'll try to make that inner image come out on the paper. So now we're starting to look like an ice cream cone, sort of, maybe a cloud cone or something, but uh, this is really pretty much what I wanted it to look like. Right now, I'm just kind of doubling up the lines and thickening them up after I got the shapes that I liked, the flows that I liked. And as I go along, I'll kind of start to make those connect with each other, and then everything kind of falls into place. I'm really starting to think that I might be an overpainter and need to stop sooner, but it's just what it is. Um, I always fulfill the goal of doing art, which is the expression, and to enjoy doing it. I think because it appeals to the eye. I'm just going to darken up a little bit here on some of that copper, and um, I'm really trying to make and match the color of chocolate here. And I did really good. I was kind of proud of this color um, that came out at the end for the chocolate. Yeah, when I first thought about doing this painting, I thought, that it was going to be super beautiful and things like that. But it kind of turned out, cartoony and comical, which is what I also wanted, I guess. Um, I've done a lot of paintings recently where I've used some kind of image and tried to copy it. But um, I think as we go forward, I'll try to use more of my inner inspiration. I'm usually more happy with those. And those are, um, that's what I consider art, I guess, is the idea um, that it came out of me. You know what I mean? Not just copying something that I saw. Although there are plenty of wonderful artists out there and they do the copy thing, and that's their thing, that's their expression. For me, it's about, I don't know, I finally found out that I was an artist a long time ago and I just kept doing it. It's the only thing that I really felt super successful at. Kept my mind busy. I used to make jewelry. Um, Here we go. We're going to do some gold work now. I have two different colors of gold here. I have the one in the bottle, which is fairly thick, and then I have the ink, which is really beautiful, no matter what you do with it. So here, I think I started with the bottle version. Um, anyway, I'm just gonna now make the ice cream swirls. Uh, just keep making them. It takes a while. I've got this set up pretty good in spots. I think I could have left it like that and it would have been okay. Just fill in those blanks, but it'd been chocolate and vanilla, so to speak. Like I said, I'm not an artist. I have to go on what I kind of see in my mind as far as that goes, and how this will flow. I keep making the swirls wider and wider. I was pretty happy with that. This painting has many, many layers. I really like to do layer after layer, but I want to stop myself better, be more responsible. Again, this picture could have gone a couple of different ways. There we are. We add more color, more silvers, and more golds. In this image of mine where I paint like this, it is about layers. It is about tones of the same color too, and so different tones of gold um, here are is what I'm going for. One thing about painting I have to remember is to keep the realistic lines. Uh, it looks really good here. I'm really proud of how it turned out. Don't get me wrong. I love of it. As far as execution of my image, I don't think I did. But that's the thing about art. Well, for one, we're making love letter envelopes. This one's addressed to my son, but um, there are lots of opportunities for a thank you uh, for somebody that did something really nice for you, something like that. I have a very good friend that um, really opened my eyes to the potential of doing this. And I kind of ran with it. Appreciate finding new ways. Maybe I can be a force for good for others. And part of that is maybe somebody will, be looking for a love letter and do a search, and maybe they'll come up with mine, and it'll inspire them to do this very thing. Okay, so we did start speeding up here, and maybe I should have done that a little earlier, but here we are learning how to make videos on YouTube. Probably hear the creaking of my chair, but it's because I get nervous when I do public speaking. I'm one of those traumatics that has the fear of being seen. Anyway, I had done that chocolate, and now just trying to get creative with different ways to create the look that I want. And that little jiggly thing I did down at the bottom underneath the ice cream itself going onto the chocolate, I felt that that was a very good success in how that looked. All right, so I use this dryer. It makes things go faster. Um, I know that the technique I use, the paper warps, and it does make it more difficult to work with. It does flatten out. I just put it in a big book and then something on top of it, and in a week it'll be completely flat. And so that's what I did with this one. Normally, my videos will include me making the envelope itself. But this one I was pretty impressed with. And so I kind of left it as um, a painting. And if he wants an envelope later, that's very well and good. He says he's going to hold on to it until he can sell it for real money in an auction when I'm famous. I believe him. Okay, so we're just keep going here, creating and defining the lines of the swirls now on the outside edge. It's just a simple thing, but it's really important that I have hard lines on the outside in different places too. I'm sure there are times, you see that little flip I did down there on the bottom uh, with the gold? That was pure accident. And um, I ended up having to invent a drip to pretty much cover that up. But as you can see now, there it is starting to turn into squirrels. And I realized that at certain points of view, you don't see the swirls very well. Now, right here, I probably should have left the ice cream alone. Here you can see it's just quite stunning. Lots of layers and lots of flow. Um, I just keep going back sometimes, and that's not always the best plan. But here it is. It's gold, it's swirly, and it's beautiful. Okay, so here we go. I'm putting a little silver on now, or close to silver. I do have a little bit of gold in this. I just wanted the tops to be lighter because the light would be hitting them. And a good practice for an artist. I have found in my art a painting that if I have three lines out of perspective, then and one line in perspective, then I still get the effect that I want. I've not been trained in, how to make these shapes and things like that. My mom taught me that if you paint uh, in your mind the inside of whatever you're painting, then you'll get the shape right. And so just imagine if you were to paint a tree, and if you just painted the inside of the bark, the shape would still be correct to the tree. And so for me, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of trying to imagine in my mind um, what the shape of the swirl is on the inside. And then I'll try to follow those lines and create that shape using that idea. And it's been a very good technique for me. I normally am not a painter. Uh, I like doing woodwork. I think in my next video, I'll probably show you some of that and we'll discuss that a little more. But for now, in my situation, I have paint and available, and I'm going to use it. I had to make this YouTube channel eventually. So yeah, I'm just doing what feels to look right. And then I'm just kind of smoothing out some of those hard lines. None of this should have any hard lines. No ice cream that I know of has shapes and lines in it. But so we're just creating effect here. Some of those silver lines I felt were a little exaggerated or stuck out too much. And so I used a little bit of gold wash there to kind of do that. And so I came up with the idea that maybe I should just do one of these dip pins and make it look like it's melting. Okay, so I am. And I'm going to go ahead and use this pen because I think I can make a sharper line with one of the pins on the outside as well and define those pretty good. All right, so there, I did kind of the whole painting that way. And again, it's just one of those 42 layers. It didn't really stay like this. Again, probably I should have stopped right about after this, but I didn't. I kept adding. And if you have a playful mind, then you'll enjoy whatever you create. So here I did the nuts and I'm doing the drip now too. And so I kind of use really heavy paint here. I don't mind. My grandmother was a painter and she used layers. And so she'd put a little bit, so some of her paintings had a lot of texture. And then you see some of these uh, other artists and it looks like it's a sheet of paper, and so I think this is probably honoring her artistry in that way when I do this to try to build it up and build it up, and I have fun with that. I just used some gold at first on what would be peanuts, crushed peanuts down at the bottom, and as we go on, I'll show you, the different layers that kind of made that. Here I'm getting ready to do the gems. And so I was experimenting with a few different shapes of it. Okay, one thing about random is I can only do random real well if I do all of them at once. And so what I did was I just kind of tapped where I wanted to, and then later I'll go in and I'll create the shape of the gemstone that I want. But I wanted these here and so on and so forth. And this is the technique that I like. Random, I think, is difficult for some people to achieve. the best I could draw on these, and I tried some different shapes, was emerald cut. And so they're all kind of square. But that blue, okay, now that blue, that um, India ink, I think it's not completely blue. I think it's like it looks more like teal, so but darker. And here I'm doing the red. That's the ruby. Doing it at random like I usually do, and then I'll go back in and I'll kind of paint them emerald. Or I did later on put some gemstones down the drip, and that worked out pretty good. Okay, just taking one of the dip pen with a square end. Okay, so I also did some silver stars or diamonds, is the way I made it in my mind. As you can see down the drip now, you see the other gemstone. It's really looking Christmassy right now. And that wasn't intended, but as I'm looking at it at that moment, I'm pretty uh, thinking it looked like it should be out at Christmas time. Okay, so I put just a little bit of silver um, towards the inside of these nut pieces, and um, just add dimension and depth to them. I think I made another mistake and I had to fix it. Kind of blend it in. I think I ended up covering it up or something. Not sure I got it to blend in the way I wanted it to. But to me, this is fun. We're having fun right now. I'm having fun playing with the ink. Inks are really wet. I have a hard time getting them to move like regular paints. It, you know, the past few weeks is the first time I've ever really played with those inks very much. I just did a little star. It's that cool. Okay, so not too much uncomfortable silence, right? As you paint, you kind of say, oh, here, and then so you do it, and oh, here, and then so you do it, and that's kind of how I would want people to do, is to feel spontaneous about it. Um, there are some people though that really like to follow steps and feel more accomplished that way, and I can appreciate that. And art has always just, I guess, it's been serious, but I've never taken it too serious. Um, there's been a lot of times where I've made some art and then just didn't like it, or it didn't turn out as I had hoped. And um, let's say if you're making a wood product or something like that, it just goes in a campfire. Same with these pictures. Although, if you're just making an envelope, I don't really see how you can mess it up. All right, so here I'm getting out some of the black ink, I think. And at first, I'm being very gentle. I know how I can get and just keep adding and adding and adding until uh, I am not happy with it anymore. But here I'm kind of defining the lines of the swirls of ice cream. This is another one of those times where I feel like I just kind of go wherever uh, I see a place to go with it. And although I don't want to overdo the black ink, I do know that there are times where I can um, paint over it and start over if I don't feel comfortable with the result. And so here I'm just doing some defining of lines. This method of using ink on art paper like this, I've never seen it before, so I don't know if it's somebody else does it the same way. But for me, I just want to do a nice, colorful background and then bring the pens in and do this defining and bring the picture together with the pen at the end. So here I go. I turned up the speed a bit. And I'm just, like I said, I can do three bad lines and one good line, and it still looks okay and has perspective. And so I want to continue with that. Uh, I'm really new at dip pens anyway. Probably only been using them for a year, and most of that has been with calligraphy. And I enjoy calligraphy a whole lot too. It's one of my love expressions. You know, this painting can be is a love expression, sometimes to myself, sometimes to somebody else. I think everybody benefits when I do these in some way. I'm a happier person. Okay, just trying a little bit of barely doing any cross hatching, but again, I always kind of have in mind that, if I don't like a certain part of the painting, um, before I make the envelope, I can uh, cut out what I don't like or something like that. So part of me while doing this was thinking that right side um, would be cut away anyway. So I wasn't too worried about that. I wasn't too happy with it either. Here we go. I get happy with the pen. I get a different pin point out, and then I go to town with it. And look at me. I'm mad with it. Mad with it. Oh, all right. So here we are. After I got heavy handed, I knew I was gonna be washing over it with some gold just to tone down the black. So I'm just kind of having fun here. I'm just kind of putting the lines where I like them. I'm experimenting. I'm learning at the same time. And I keep dipping and I keep going back at it. So at the time, I must have been very happy with it. Here, I'm putting my good perspective lines in now. I have my three bad ones in. Okay. So I'm kind of nearing the end of working with the ink. As you can see, I also work down on the cone area. All right. So the realization that that was way too much has finally set in. And here we go. Just going to take a little bit of this gold paint, kind of dry. I don't want to completely cover up the ink. I want a little bit of it to be showing and represented. I'm just doing different things here. Just gonna go over it, and I'm gonna try to adhere to perspective. And so I'm got this little motion with the brush here that it's kind of, I don't know, an arch. I'm going over the top of that, but as you can see, ice cream swirls are arched, and so that's probably an appropriate shape. I always keep these papers handy and make sure that I don't have too much on the brush. I'm getting towards the end. I get really careful about paint when I near the end and finish the work. Probably because I've overdid it sometime in the past. And so now I'm being real cautious. Got to be a responsible painter and stop myself when I need to. Kind of adding the gold over the top of that silver. My hope was is that all the lines would show, and so pretty soon you're left with quite a few colorful lines of different colors. So we might keep doing this for a while. But I wanted everybody to see kind of the stroke for the brush, the amount of paint you would want, smooth that out. Okay, so this is all part of the finishing touches. I don't know what your attitude is when you start to finish a painting, um, but right now I'm just looking at aesthetics and looking at different mistakes I might have made. I think I throw the gold in it here pretty heavy when with a wash and want to give it perspective. I don't want those black lines to stand out too much. Okay, and I'm going to do the top gem. This is an indicolite tourmaline, really. That was the model in my mind, was to make an indicolite tourmaline. Here, I'm just putting a little something in the silver and over some of the gemstones, getting kind of a glare. A couple of drops of silver. Uh, Tourmalines are they allow light goes two ways. I can't remember what they really call it, but anyway, that's basically what it is. And so if I had the light on one side and then the opposite side. So, and that one I was real happy with, and I just kind of set it right there with drying it off, drying the whole thing. Okay, there it is. Southpark Sunday. Uh, it's a beautiful train wreck. I really, really love it. And I know my son will too. Probably get a nice big gold frame. Here you go. You can see that I made that where I had some of that blue was still wet. And when I brushed across it, I got it into the gold. So here at first, I just tried to kind of cover it up. Then I went and I got a towel and I soaked it out and then took gold back over the top. See how you can fix your mistakes just like that. Maybe this whole painting thing is for me to learn different techniques for fixing mistakes. You know, all right. I finished it. I'm drying it off. Yeah, I really like this painting. It didn't turn out how I hoped, but uh, that was a good thing. I doubt I'll be doing it again, though. I think I'll keep using my own mind and inspiration in a lot of ways. All right. I use that double-sided tape. You got to be careful when taking it off. You can pull a corner off of one of these pieces of paper pretty quick. Like I think the dryer. Anyway, I was going to say, hey, here it is, finished, but no. Okay, Southpark Sunday. I hope you enjoyed. And as we go forward with more love letters, I hope you start to join me in this art.